No, you're not seeing things. We are back here for round number 2 of our Sunday night DBW coverage, and with certainly for good reason, because our guest tonight, if you think about it, maybe a few weeks ago I would have said, you know what, it was a really tough 2023 for him, but he's got a big chance to make 2024 the best year of his career. And he's also, in a small way, a part of the main event of Merry Mayhem. And he's going to tell us why. And he also, by that time, could very well have gold back in his resume. This man is one of the cornerstones when we think about the history of DBW and the company's humble beginnings to where it is now, where it's a worldwide juggernaut with the DBW universe is as big as anybody's out there. And this is a man that has held gold, and he has been a World Extreme champion. He has been an Anarchy champion, and you have seen him in a number of different places across the wrestling scene in the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast over the past decade. This man needs no further introduction because it's his first time here on Sportswire Radio, and many of his peers, including our guest a little while ago, the Blaze Ace Christian, got that introduction. So it is now his time to bask in the glory of my introductions. So with that, wait for it. Further ado, on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show from DBW. His name is Corey Graves. My friend, how are you?
I'm good, and I don't think I've ever quite had an introduction like that, so I want to thank you for that right off the bat. Wow.
Well, I'm sure that's going to definitely be at the expense of my voice, because my voice has definitely had a rough past 24 hours or so. That's certainly a inside joke for certain fans of Sportswire. Maybe our top listener. I don't want to say who that listener might be, but obviously you might not have a clue. But certainly it is a tremendous honor to have you. I have a lot to talk about with you. I know we have a lot to cover in your career. Certainly a lot to talk about actually in the present and future. But as I kind of promised, was I said the same thing to the Blaze Ace Christian. I know you were tuned in for that. And I promised I would say this, especially after I had DBG on the show. I have to actually ask you, Corey Graves, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, what is your take on Robert Pearson's new haircut?
Yo, when I looked at it, when I first took a glance, when I laid my eyes upon that new visual, I was shocked. Not in a bad way. I'm just used to seeing the curly, moppy head.
I don't know if it was quite like when Metallica got haircuts after the Black Album. I don't know if it's quite that drastic, but it was definitely, felt like I was seeing something, and it wasn't the Robert Pearson, the Bone Shaker I've gotten to know on Sportswire Radio.
Well, this transformation's hopefully going to be for the better. I can't see it being for the worse. I mean, come on.
Well, I hope it helps him in the department of wins and losses. I guess it'll remain to be seen if it will help him in that, and we'll see if he keeps the look. Although guys like you and I don't think we can cut our hair. Guys like us who have just about the same
Absolutely
We
Maybe
can't
some
do
trims
it.
here and there, but no, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even do the trims anymore at this point. I'm like superstitious. I got the mutton chops that people don't even want me to cut. My first lady of Sportswire doesn't want me to touch it. So at this point, nobody's touching it. It's taken a life of its own. I've got people, my many fans out there that definitely love it, but it's not about that anymore. We've got the Robert Pearson look out of the way. I'm sure Robert Pearson, the Bone Shaker, will tell us what he thinks about it one day on Sportswire. But, Corey Graves, there is actually a lot to talk about with you here on Sportswire Radio because, 2023 might not have been the year that you hoped for. It might not have been in years like in 2018, 2019, but you've got a chance to redeem yourself. Just like your brother in the locker room, the Blaze Ace Christian, who could very well reclaim gold and give him a huge springboard to 2024. You have the same opportunity, my friend, by having a shot to capture a championship you once held in the Anarchy Championship in a 5-way match. So for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, Corey Graves, tell us what we can expect next weekend. Merry Mayhem in that 5-way match as you look to reclaim a championship you once held in the DBW Anarchy title.
First off, I'm going to preface this. That is December 23rd. We're going to be having Merry Mayhem, one of the events, one of the bigger events, the last event of the year for DBW. I will be competing for the Anarchy Championship, like Tom just said, and it will be against 4 other people. And I shortly spoke to them, as you might have seen on Thunder Punch.
I did. A few times I saw it.
I tried to get my little piece in and get out of there because I know how those kinds of things end. But
that was kind of like a mayhem, almost, you might say, pre-entree to the Merry Mayhem, we may say.
Yeah.
Saturday.
But giving all of them the respect that they actually deserve. I've never been in the ring with them. I've only seen them. I think the closest interaction I've had with any of them was Azrael took me out with a clothesline when I was trying to help Tex in a practice match a long time ago. But, oh well. Azrael's a big guy. He's going to be the target of probably all of the people in this match. That is going to be the difficult thing. And then you have Jackson Sabre, who is also big, not quite as big as Azrael, but he has a good bit of experience. I've seen a lot of what he can do outside of DBW.
Yeah, we spoke a lot about him. He's, obviously in, Jackson Sabre in EBW, Golden Dynasty, he's had some success. I mean, not in DBW, but in other places like in EBW, he has had a fair amount of success. I agree with you on that.
And he is not your run-of-the-mill big guy. He's got a good noggin up there, and you got to be aware of that. And that's something you really have to be aware of.
And he's got momentum right now, despite what people may say. He beat the Blaze Ace Christian, a former world heavyweight champion in this company, a man you know extremely well.
That shocked me. Seeing him beat Ace Christian, I almost called him the Blaze there. I'm sorry. Seeing him beat Ace Christian, you want to talk about cornerstones. He's a cornerstone of DBW.
Absolutely.
If there's a Mount Rushmore, he's on.
At the end of the show, we said we're going to induct him into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame.
I saw that. But seeing him get beat by someone who is not new to wrestling, but fairly new to DBW, it was surprising because DBW is its own environment. It's hard to win in DBW, whether you've won somewhere else. Yes, it's hard. It is one of the hardest places to win. And seeing the Blaze, seeing Ace Christian lose to Jackson Sabre, it gave me 2 things in my head. It made me become very aware of Jackson Sabre and want to kind of watch out for him in that match, like all competitors. And it made me want to take a look at Ace Christian. Maybe he might have to rethink of a few things, how he does things. You never know. I'm not quite sure what he's going to end up doing, but eating a loss to him, he hasn't had the best year, like you said, just like me, but he's taken a further fall from grace.
Yeah, he has, and you in a way have the ability to redeem yourself. But I do want to point out, I've got a couple of people that have pointed out that you are having a little bit of an audio issue right now. In fact,
Am I?
Yeah, you in fact, our first lady of Sportswire said, Ms. Dina said you almost sound like a droid. And then I've got Big Tex, who I'm going to talk a lot about in a minute, said you sound like a robot. So basically, I guess those minds may think alike from different sides of it, but certainly, I obviously hope you fix that. While you do that, I am going to get to a couple things here first. So obviously, you spoke about Jackson Sabre. You spoke about as Asriel, who again, certainly, has been somebody that I guess has been maybe the true giant of this company. I know Big Tex is the big man, but then we've also got DJW, who's coming on to Sportswire actually after this match. He's going to be on here on the 30th or the 31st. And you've got a guy, Antonio Arias. I mean, Antonio Arias, who I'm trying to figure out is it Arias? Is it Arias? I mean, I'm trying maybe in between both and figure out, flip a coin. And, how do you scout then these opponents? Because, these opponents, to almost steal a phrase from Cyrus, they're going to have the book of Corey Graves. They're going to know your book real well because you've been in this company a long time. You got a long list of matches people can go through. So, I mean, when it comes to these opponents, even the opponents that you didn't mention that you may not be familiar with, DJW and Antonio Arias, I mean, how do you prepare for them, and what do you think they're going to do for you in order to keep you out of this match, or at least keep you at bay, so they can claim a championship that can certainly give them the kind of momentum that you want as well?
Do I sound any better? I'm gonna
a little bit
that.
better right now. A
Okay.
little bit better. Let's hope we get better. Yep,
Let's hope it stays like that. I apologize for anything like this, but
it happens. Trust me. My USB cable in the first show thought was bad, and it wasn't. So things happen.
Okay, so I've never been in the ring with DJW. I've never been in the ring with Antonio Arias. I've never been
I
in the ring with
know.
him.
At this point, flip a coin. I mean, maybe that'll be the right name.
So I have not seen much of Antonio. I will be honest with that. I've seen very little, and I've seen only slightly more of DJW. The only thing I can say about DJW, he's strong. I can tell he has a lot of strength.
I think he's the wild card in this match. Asriel is the big man. He's the giant. You're all going to focus on him, but I think DJW is this total wild card here.
This guy's got a lot of power, and I've seen it. I've seen it at DBW. I've seen it in videos that I've watched from him.
DBW, he's been in. He's had success there, and and he might be in the best shape. I'm going to say it here. He might be in the best shape of anybody on the roster. He's pure pound for pound muscle. Like, he's just this guy's a real fighter.
You might be right. But you also have Antonio Arias, who is a dark horse in this match. You don't have much of an expectation from him, and that might be the scariest thing of all.
Interesting here. Okay, so you make good points. But you have the experience. There's what you have in this match that the others don't, especially when it comes to DBWs, that you have the numbers game. You have been in this company. You have had the experience. You were one of the guys that I would actually say is a locker room leader. You've had almost a decade in this sport. You've pretty much competed against everybody there is. So if there is going to be something that's going to help you in reclaiming that Anarchy title, it's got to be your experience, because these guys put together, I don't think they have the experience that you have in your career.
They don't. And that's not a dig at anybody, but that's just a cold, hard fact of life.
Cold, hard fact.
And now I can use my experience. I can use my knowledge on top of the skills that I have to try and win this. It's going to be very difficult. The more people, the more difficult something like this is. But I've been in countless numbers of multi-man matches, and I know the strategies that it takes. I know that you have to pick your moments. You can't just be aggressive. You can't just be the guy tossing people around. You can't just be the guy laying hammers on people. You got to be smart. And if these guys are aware of that, if these guys can do that, then they might have a chance, but I'm more familiar with it. So I hope and I think that I'm going to walk away a 2-time Anarchy champion.
And I'm going to definitely plug a couple of things here first. I'm going to get to comments in a second. I want to say hello to everybody and also say hello to a man you actually defeated recently at Danger Zone. We'll definitely get to that. But, I'm curious on this, and tell me your thoughts. And obviously, you've done a lot in your career. You've been out there. But I don't know if you can plan or prepare differently in the eve of a title match, and especially a fatal five-way. You've been in this sport a long time, and I'm curious in a week. I have a lot of British wrestlers in the pros, and some of them have been world champions. Others have been in main events or title matches like you, but I'm thinking about this in my career. I mean, I've had very few instances where I've had somebody on the eve of a championship match in a fatal five-way match. So I'm curious for you as a veteran, Corey Graves, how do you plan and prepare for a match like this in order to give you that advantage to become a two-time DBW Anarchy champion?
You got to take all normal planning out the window. You can't just study one guy. You can't just say, this is where this guy's weak. This is where this guy's strong. This is what I have to do against this guy, because you play in multiple factors. You got to watch your back. You got to watch your sides. You got to watch above you. You got to watch under the ring if it's a small guy. So when planning for a five-way match, it's more so just something mental. You have to be mentally tough. You have to be mentally aware. Awareness is one of the biggest things in a match like this, and that is something that only comes with being in this a long time. Awareness. You can't just jump in the ring and know what's going on day one. But year 10, I know a lot about what's going on. I can watch my back. I can watch my sides. And you better watch out, because I can throw fist, elbow, kick, any direction. You get caught with one of those, lights out. I'm the champ.
I'm going to get to comments here in a second. I want to plug some social medias in a second, but I want to ask you this question and tell me your thoughts. And I don't know if it's too early or maybe if it's the right time to ask this, but is this a make or break moment for you and your career in DBW? You win this match, you kind of back to where you were. You've had success. It's been alluded upon that you have not had quite the amount of success you've had this year. But a win here all of a sudden puts you back to where you were. You're one of the original guys here in this company. You've been here a long time. You've seen a lot of different things. So I have to ask you, with what's on the line next Saturday, Merry Mayhem, is this a make or break moment for you in DBW?
You know, almost every match is a make or break moment, because at any time anyone's career could end. But looking at the ramifications of this match and what's on the line, it's a championship that I've held before, a championship that I would hopefully like to have a better reign with. But when it's all said and done, this is not make or break. When it's all said and done, I've always had a plan in mind. And the plan that I have in mind right now, I have Tex where he needs to be. I have Tex where I want him. And that's not necessarily the main thing on my mind. That's not necessarily the only thing on my mind. I'm focusing on two things right now. That Anarchy Championship is only a piece of the puzzle. We'll just say that. And if I can't get that piece, I'll grab it later.
I'm going to ask you a lot about Big Tex, but I want to ask you one follow-up, because you talked about titles and pieces of the pie. And I ask this sometimes to wrestlers. We are speaking here with Corey Graves. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, and your voice of all wrestling. But I'm curious on this, and I know that it wasn't maybe the best of runs that you had, at least with the Anarchy title, but have you, in going into this match, thought about that time when you were the DBW Anarchy champion to help you kind of prepare for what we're going to see next Saturday?
Yeah. Like I said before, I've been in a lot of multi-man matches that include 3, 4, 5, 6, 1,000 people, you know? So anything can happen at any moment in wrestling, but especially in one of these matches. The way I won the Anarchy Championship is I hit Jim Connors over the back with a chair, with Legos, almost as hard as I think I've hit anyone with a chair.
Let me go find my Legos and maybe see if I could reciprocate.
See, that was his chair. He beat Judgment with that chair for the Anarchy belt. It had Judgment's like little cross and everything. It was nice.
I can see that.
And I was fired up, and I cracked him, and it was history. But what that taught me is picking your moments in these kinds of matches is the most important thing. Picking your moments and being aware.
Well, we're going to certainly find out. There's a couple of different things that I want to do. First of all, I'd like to plug Corey Graves here. First of all, if you're out there on Instagram, give him a follow at It's Just Graves. YouTube, I got at Graves Wrestling and also Just Gravy Baby. So you can just find out those platforms on YouTube to watch some matches, prior content. Also Twitter, just Gravy Baby. He's just out there on Twitter. We're going to follow him on Twitter as well. And if you're out there also, please support our friends at DBW. I cannot stress enough the fact that how much we want to support DBW on Facebook at Dominating Backyard Wrestling, YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling, where you get a chance to watch Merry Mayhem this Saturday, and Twitter, DBW Wrestling. Let me get to a bunch of comments. I want to say hello, first of all, to my buddy, Mr. Michael Blackheart. Hello, Tom. Michael's out there. His father-in-law is our very dear friend, Mr. Festus Davis, the senior official in XCW. Late night, early morning. The kind words my grandmother gave me, I shall pass to you. Give him health. Thank you so much, Michael, for that. And he also says, what was the funny line, Michael, before I get to more people? Always remember Steiner math. Yeah, well, you know what? Certainly, I would hope that it's not that many people here, not that many numbers in this match. But I do definitely appreciate that comment. Obviously, hello to our guest this past evening, Mr. Ace Christian the Blaze, who we're going to induct into the Sportswire Hall of Fame, as we mentioned. And your buddy, we're going to definitely talk a lot about him, Mr. Big Tex, the #1 contender to the DBW World Heavyweight Championship. And let's get to the man, actually, that you maybe, in a way, turned the corner over for, which through the help of Big Tex, Mr. T3 himself, Mr. Thomas Taft of High Power. Hello again, Brother Bryce, and obviously, Mr. Taft, I say again, condolences to our Steelers on yesterday's game, because that was just not a pretty second half, but that's here nor there. It was funny. I'm really rooting hard for the Steelers, but that's not going to be this year. But
I am a Colts fan.
Oh, well, you know what? That's why we're happy to have you on. And forget what I just said. Go Colts. Forget it. We want you to stay on Sportswire. Although I will say the Colts, real quick, have maybe been the biggest surprise in the NFL this year. I mean, I know the Texans came back and won, but I mean, with the Colts and all their quarterback issues and a new coach and basically to be 8-6, I mean, they got a pretty good shot to make the playoffs there. I mean, what a job they've done. I mean, you know, I'm
shocked.
And they might win the AFC South because Baltimore is beating Jacksonville right now. So
yeah.
You know what? You know, the Colts, you know what? I tell you what, they really have had some story. But enough about that. I'm here to say, I know, right? I'm here to say this. Graves and I have a mutual respect for each other. He is one of my favorite people, and I am proud to give you your first W this year. And he also says, I beat DJW easily. You only got to worry about Azrael. I got a funny line about Azrael in a second. Regardless, if I'm a heel, you and Tex have been part of the High Power elevation. All right, let me ask you this question. And I was thinking about this. We were talking off the air, and certainly I'm going to ask it to you now on the air. But was the win that you had against T3, Mr. Thomas Taft, was that the biggest win of your career in recent memory?
It's hard to gauge what is the biggest win of your career, but that was the biggest. It was the only win I've had in DBW this year.
Well, I said memory. I mean,
yeah. In DBW, to answer your question, yeah, that win meant a lot to me. That win, I kind of felt something, a spark again. I reached a level of intensity in that match, and I feel like that is something that I can reach down and pull back out at any time now. That kind of helped me a lot, and not only props to Tex for helping me, but props to T3 for pissing me off and getting me to that level. So.
Well, I definitely, you know what, well, congratulations on the win. We have a ton of people that just joined us on Twitter, so I do hope, though, that you could fix your audio a little bit, because Big Tex is telling you sound robot-like. I got 30 people right now watching us on out there.
Wow.
Thank you for really tuning in out there. I want to thank my buddy Ernest Stubb, who's got like 7,000 followers on Twitter. So we have 33 people right now that are watching us here. So obviously, while you do that, if you're out there on Twitter for the first time, we are on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579 Backspace Streams. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. If you're watching us, follow me on Twitter at Thomas Bryce 2017. Corey Graves, pro wrestling star. It's just Gravy Baby. Follow him with the V, E, and the Y. Also check him out on YouTube. DBW, one of the premier wrestling companies around in the world, dominating back. But DBW Wrestling on Twitter, YouTube, where they have over 3,500 subscribers, dominating Breakout Wrestling. And if you like Sportswire Radio, we're on sportswireradio.org. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our content. I want to thank Ernest Dove. We're going to, in fact, induct Ernest Dove into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame on December the 26th, right after Christmas, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So right after you opened up all those gifts, you had the eggnog, you had a few cookies extra that Santa Claus left, and maybe you didn't get that lump of coal. Well, forget about all that, because December the 26th, Ernest Dove is going to be here with us. And obviously, if you're on Twitter for the first time, thank you for joining us. We have a lot of people. So again, my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. If you are out there, support DBW, support Corey Graves. Corey is out there also on YouTube. He is out there at It's Just Gravy Baby. Check him out. Also, It's Not Just Graves, also on Instagram as well. So Corey Graves, we have been joined by you once again. I was plugging all because we have a whole new list of people out there, and I hope you fixed your audio issues. And I was wondering, especially now for a newer audience, and talk to me about your goals for 2024. I know you're going to win this match on Merry Mayhem, but as I ask everybody else, because we have a whole new audience right now, and I'm going to go shotgun on this, what is your goals for 2024?
All right, how do I sound before I do this?
Sound a little bit better. We're going to sound better.
All right, so my goals for 2024, best case scenario, and you got to look at things like they already happened. We just got to show them how we did it. So going into Merry Mayhem, I just got to show everyone how I won that championship. Tex just has to show everyone how we won that championship. Going into Merry Mayhem, we will have the DBW World Heavyweight Championship. We will have the DBW Anarchy Championship. And we will usher in a new age to DBW. Now, that new age is the falling of an empire. That new age is the defeat of a final boss, the sequel per se. So if Big Tex needs to become that new final boss, then so be it. We're going to see an irresistible force made an immovable object, and that doesn't happen very often.
I've heard that before. Yeah. That sounds like a WrestleMania 3 reference there with Hulk and Andre, if I'm not mistaken. Boy, you came out there swinging there, sir.
Now, if the worst happens, if things don't go our way, that's not the end of the world. This is Tex's first year. Tex has not been wrestling very long.
He's 2 weeks ago. I mean, what has he had? What, 6 matches or less than 10 matches, something like that, I think, in his career?
And he's already going to be in the main event of the final show of one of the biggest wrestling companies in this community with Mr. Judgment, who deserves all my respect. He brings out the best in every single person that he goes up against. But with my knowledge, with my experience, I know a lot about Judgment. I fought him very recently.
Hey, you fought him this past year for that DBW World Championship. And it's Go watch it on YouTube. If you're out there, go watch that match. Yep.
I'm very aware of what he can do, and you're damn right I'm telling Tex every single thing I know about him. But another thing about Judgment, he doesn't have one half of the heretics out, hurt, that arm, that collarbone. He's not there to help protect him.
And Caden Phoenix right now is worried about keeping those tag team championships.
And he doesn't have his woman anymore. He is all alone. The tables have turned. When I fought him, when I was this close to beating him, he had multiple people in his corner. And now, Big Tex with me in his corner, with Chaos Conspiracy in his corner, he doesn't stand a chance. How's he gonna get Big Tex up? How's he gonna knock Big Tex down? Mr. Judgment is in for a world of hurt. He's in for a rude awakening.
All right, let me ask you, and I have Mr. Judgment here just as a tease. So I'm going to ask you something because you brought it up, Big Tex, and I have a lot more comments. I'm going to get to everybody here again. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. We are here with Corey Graves, superstar from DBW, just days ahead of the Merry Mayhem show. And, of course, he's going to be in the match for the fatal 5-way match for that Anarchy Championship. You know, Big Tex has had this meteoric rise, right? We had him on here, and you've certainly, I guess maybe you could say, taken him under his wing. I said different things, but I think it seems to me is that from what we saw in Thunder Punch, there truly is a special relationship between you and Big Tex. Obviously, you've been in this sport a long time, and you've seen a lot. And I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't know if I want to make this comparison. But, you know, when you talk about Big Tex and being in this sport, less than a year, and maybe less than 10 matches. I mean, the only two comparisons that I can think of in this moment, I don't know if he's ready. He seemed like, though, that he might be. The way he spoke to Judgment, I've never seen anybody in DBW in recent memory talk to Judgment the way he did. Castelli didn't do it. The Blaze Ace Christian didn't do it. You didn't do it.
I
I
was
mean,
proud of him.
and that's what I want to say on this is the only two names I could think of that have been in this moment is Goldberg when he wrestled Hulk Hogan or Hollywood Hogan in the Georgia Dome, and converse, I think it was his first or second match for the world title. Then the Giant, aka Paul White. There's very few people all time in this sport that can just all of a sudden leapfrog and have this meteoric rise. I mean, is this what we're seeing? Are we on the verge of greatness? Are we on the verge of Merry Mayhem, that moment in the Georgia Dome where Goldberg lifts up Hollywood Hulk Hogan and Bobby the Brain Heenan says, just do it. Whatever you do, just do it. Just do it and lift him up. Lift him up. This is your moment. Are we on the cusp, the premises of that moment at Merry Mayhem, similar to the Georgia Dome?
I'm going to answer your question with another question.
All right.
Would you be asking yourself this if it wasn't going to happen? Would you be asking yourself this if it wasn't true?
I don't know that though, because Mr. Judgment, he is still at the top of his level in this sport. I don't know.
He's quaking in his boots. He has never been in a position that he is in right now. He's backed against the wall. And when I've seen old men backed against the wall at the end, he's close to the end. He might have you fooled that he's in the cusp, that he's at the zenith of his career, but he's not. When Big Tex takes that championship from him, it's going to be a spiral down that drain.
Okay, so I guess then you're telling me we're on the cusp of history. We're on the cusp of something special. So then I ask you before I get to more comments, I mean, how much has Big Tex asked you about how to prepare for this moment? How much has Big Tex asked you about your experiences with Judgment? Because outside of, I don't know, maybe Cyrus, maybe the Blaze, Ace Christian, I mean, maybe even Chase Wakefield, Mr. I Love Aaron. Now, you might be the guy that knows Judgment better than anybody on this roster currently. I mean, maybe Roland Havoc, but even Havoc I don't think has been in there as much as you have against him, and maybe Havoc shared a locker room with Judgment maybe longer. But I think the point stands is that, what is Big Tex asking you about your experiences in order to maybe accomplish that meteoric moment?
Well, I've been in Big Tex's ear a lot. I'm going to start with that. We've been talking pretty much every day, multiple times a day since he won that Rumble. We celebrated, but ever since then, it's been all strategy. Now, it's hard to teach someone how to reach deep down and pull out that grit. It's hard to teach someone how to reach deep down and kick out of the Jesus Christ, or how to kick out of the Judgment Slam. But what I can tell Tex is how to get out of things, is how to maneuver against Mr. Judgment. He's got so much more size than him. He's got more weight than I do. It's going to be hard. He can't just throw Big Tex around. Big Tex is a lot stronger than Judgment. Big Tex is bigger than Judgment. Mr. Judgment, his offense is limited. And when Big Tex understands that, when Big Tex understands he uses his size, his weight, and stays on him, that's all he has to do. Aggressiveness. You have to be aggressive.
All right, let me get to some comments. I have a lot more questions on this, but I will to the people first. Jackson Saber says, I've been waiting for this interview. Well, that's why we're having the interview, so welcome aboard. That was funny. Mr. Thomas Tab says, let's say it this way. Everyone that you were in the match with, I have dealt with. DJW, Azriel, and Jackson in the Rumble, meaning Saber, but though he left out Antonio. Let's just call him Antonio. It's like Madonna's called Madonna, right? Madonna's still called Madonna. Let's just call him Antonio so nobody butchers the name. everyone face or come across gets elevated after we done. Well, I want to come back to that for sure. 2024, Mr. T3 is the elevator. Well, that elevator is going to go up, 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 up in a way. But as I promised, oh, wrong person. Not yet, Big Tex. Mr. Judgment is here, and he says Hulk slammed Andre, and I will Judgment slam Tex with an exclamation point. Why brush that off though so nonchalantly though? I mean, Mr. Judgment, this is a man that's ranked just outside the top 100 in Kings and Queens magazine. Apparently, they don't think he's old. They don't think he's past his prime. They think, as a matter of fact, he's right there was one of the best wrestlers, I would dare say it, in the entire independent wrestling scene right now. I mean, that's the facts.
Wrestling is a very wild game.
It is a very wild game. It is like the wild, wild west. I couldn't agree with you.
Absolutely. And while Judgment might be the DBW World Heavyweight Champion, while Judgment might be right outside the top 100 on a massive list of very talented people, while Judgment might be in his prime right now, you want to compare wrestlers? I'm going to compare them to NFL kickers. Once you start to miss, once you start to lose that edge, you don't have it anymore. You got to find it. Has Judgment ever had to find that edge again? Does he have the ability to find a new edge when he loses it? I've found my edge. I've found it multiple times. And it's sharper than ever. And I'm going to make Tex sharp. And it's going to be sharper than Judgment.
Ooh, that reminds me of a number 2 pencil. Was it a sharpener? No, sharpener with a pencil eraser pencils. But that's certainly here nor there. Let me come further back to Mr. Judgment. I'm Infinite, and before I get to Tex, I have, because this is really fascinating right now, because we've got you here, and you know a lot about Big Tex. You're obviously there. You came out after Big Tex won that Rumble. You came out there to give him that hat, and it was a special moment that it was really like out of the blue. This was a moment that I think a lot of people really weren't expecting. I mean, Big Tex really came out of nowhere to win this. I mean, a lot of people would have said Cyrus, Aaron Jones. I mean, even Ariel actually had a really good chance. She could have won it. I mean, that would have been, by the way, that would have been rather interesting, Mr. Judgment versus Ariel. I mean, some people say she's the real boss of DBW. Some people said, I don't know if that's to be accurate or not. I'm going to leave that for the peanut gallery in the DBW universe. But that would have been, I think, the most fascinating match. But, obviously, again, though, the point is that you came out there, you have a lot of insight. But, let's say, though, for all intents and purposes, right? Judgment Slam goes to Big Tex. 1, 2, 3 in convincing fashion, right? And this is a guy in Big Tex. I know, you're helping him, you're giving him advice, you're mentoring him. I think it's fair to say that. But he's only had a handful of matches in his career. This could go the other way. Maybe he won't beat Goldberg. Maybe he'll be the Renegade after this. The Renegade had that famous run in WCW with Ryback. Ryback was moving all the way up the ladder. And he got that title match against CM Punk, and he's on X right now, basically hawking protein products, and got a Colombian girlfriend. He probably has I'm sure he arranged, and Psycho Sid's even going after him. I mean, who would have guessed that? But the point is that if Judgment really does hit that slam on Big Tex could be Little Tex, and we may not see much of him after this. So what are you doing then to kind of prepare for that not to happen? Because Judgment, if he does what he says he's going to do to Big Tex, I'm not quite sure Big Tex is really going to be much of this big man of DBW and Big Tex country that he claims right now, sir.
Let's buy into what you're saying. Let's go down that path. Let's say that Mr. Judgment pins Big Tex, shoulders down, clean as a whistle. We've talked about this. I've talked to Tex about bouncing back.
Okay.
I believe that he can do it. I believe that if he loses, that it is not going to be the end of the world. And there's multiple things that are telling me this. Big Tex, take away what's going to happen with Mr. Judgment. Big Tex pinned Brandon Castelli.
Yep. A man
Big
who fought
Tex
Mr. Judgment, by the way, at Danger Zone there.
Big Tex launched Cyrus out of the ring. The current global champion. I'm
Yes, he
going to
did.
tell you.
In convincing fashion, yep.
So say this quick route, this express route to the DBW World Heavyweight Championship does not take us where we need to be. There's multiple avenues that he can go down. I could very well see Big Tex becoming a future global champion, a future World Extreme champion, a future Hub City champion, a future champion. Even if it's not the World Heavyweight Championship, he will get there eventually. And I know it. And with my help, I'm not going to allow him to quit until he does.
Interesting points. And of course, you can watch the Merry Mayhem show on the YouTube page of DBW at Dominating Breakout Wrestling. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you want to follow, of course, our very good friend, Mr. Corey Graves, you can do that here on a number of platforms. And if you like what you hear from us, past, present, and future Sportswire radio shows from DBW, you can always check us out here in the links below. What Big Tex would like to say, that judgment won't lift me for the Jesus Christ or the Judgment Slam. I will lay him down and take the title and usher in a new era. Is this the moment, though, that DBW needs? I mean, DBW doesn't need a new champion. Does it need a hero? I mean, if you look at the division here in DBW of championship contenders, I mean, it's pretty much void of anyone at the moment. I mean, there really isn't anybody that on the roster that is really up there to go toe-to-toe with. I mean, Castelli failed. Once again, couldn't win the big one. The Blaze Ace Christian we had on here, let's not even go there. I mean, you were in there at one point. I mean, but in terms of the contenders and the company, I mean, I don't really think there's anybody I could think of right now currently that I would say is the one. And is this the moment where DBW ushers in a new era, like Big Tex says?
Yes. Big Tex is the future. Big Tex is turning this place to Big Tex country. It is going to be the Texas Heavyweight Championship, if you want to put a moniker onto that. Mr. Judgment, with all due respect, your time is coming close.
Well, we're going to have to find out here. I've got a back and forth between Jackson Sabre and Thomas Taft. Taft, I respect the Stompers, but you're not quite there yet. Obviously, they had a little bit of back and forth on Thunder Punch, so wait until you actually get a pin on me before saying I'm taking care of it. I want to say hello to John S. on X. Hi, John. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoy it. I'm going to be honest, Sabre. You don't have to respect me at all, but as you saw firsthand, the T3 cutter drops any and all. I also have here... Oh, there we go. Mr. Judgment, there he goes. Big Tex, you're a walking sin. Gluttony, pride, sloth. You will be relieved of your soul, and it'll be mine. I wish I could read it in Mr. Judgment's voice, but unfortunately my voice is, well, maybe heading south like Texas, so I didn't think I could do that, but obviously...
I can hear it. I hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could hear Mr. Judgment's voice in there, but, I mean, what do you say to that, though? I mean...
There's not much to say to that. I mean, he's just insulting Big Tex for being bigger than he is. He's insulting Big Tex for... He's giving him a shtick. There's no substance to that.
Are you saying then Judgment's afraid of Big Tex?
I believe so. I've never seen a look on Judgment quite like the one that I saw when they were face to face at the end of that Rumble.
Yeah, I tell you what, in recent DBW lore, that was not even Scorpion the Assassin, I think. Not even Scorpion the Assassin, I think, when he was on top, that Judgment really quaked like that. I would give you that. I would certainly say fair play. Obviously, let's see these two men square off in a ring at Merry Mayhem.
I'm excited. I'm so excited.
And I love DBW. I cannot stress enough to people, if you are out there, please support DBW on a number of different platforms. On Facebook at Dominating Backyard Wrestling. Also on YouTube, where you can watch the whole thing at Dominating Breakout Wrestling. Twitter at DBW Wrestling. And also, by the way, you want to go on the DBW website, you can go to Bonfire and buy some merchandise. Buy some DBW merchandise. Buy some Corey Graves merchandise. Buy some Mr. Judgment merchandise. Ego. Whoever else is out there, go do that. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportzwire Radio. I'll be back here tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, with the WCE All-Out Champion, the brand new champion, the picture of perfection, Kodak Kid, in his first words from taking the championship from the nearly 500-plus day champion of Craven Rage, the former Backyard Nightmare, ruler of the yard, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Tuesday, I'm here with Mr. Luke Leyland, 3:15 p.m. on the eve of his actual box. He's a former wrestler turned filmmaker who's going to fight in Africa. So that's a really fascinating story. It's a really fascinating story. In fact, Luke was trained to be a wrestler by Dean Olmark, who trained Tony Storm. You probably heard of Tony Storm, the AEW Women's World Champion, and Luke is going to be here. And Wednesday, we induct as the fourth member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, also at 3:15, the vigilante of pro wrestling, Bentley. So a lot ahead, but right now we are here with Corey Graves. Very honored. Let me get to Jackson Sabre on the back and forth. Ask Rob Blade how fast I can drop someone. You couldn't pin me. Your boys couldn't pin me, so all you took is an elimination because, boys, if you took care of me, why am I in this match and you're cheerleading? He's talking about that match. Judgment says afraid. Please, no mortal can defeat me. Well, okay, so obviously, that's going to be the back and forth there. But I ask you, and for you and obviously Tex, we heard Tex talk about this, but I mean, what has this relationship meant for you? I mean, you've talked about what you've done in terms of mentoring Tex. He did talk about the fact that it's a two-way step, and he also, speaking of Tex, about a two-way step, but he also talked about the fact that you basically didn't leave his side a few months back when the Stompers and High Power were beating up Chaos Conspiracy and himself. He talked about the fact that the reason he stuck with you is you could have walked away and you didn't, even though you didn't come in and help, beat the guys up because of obviously the numbers game, 3-on-1, you didn't leave. When you heard what Big Tex said about that, what did that mean to you and how he basically, I don't want to say he choked up, but he talked about basically what it meant to him?
Big Tex took a leap of faith by joining my side, even before that. And sure. I think that he realized whenever I stuck by him, whenever I refused to leave, I think he realized that that's a payoff. That he not only has someone who is going to manage him and help him be successful, but he has a brother. And I felt a bit of the same of that whenever he helped me out and helped me make Little Taft quit. Big Tex came out and he flattened him like a pancake, flatter than a plate full of pee. I don't know. I don't want to curse on your program, but
yeah, I mean, some people do it at this point. I mean, some people just do it, others don't. I mean, at this point, say whatever you want. At this point, I mean, that's the way I look at it, I suppose. I mean, you won't hear me do it, but the people seem to do what they want, and I'm not going to get in your way, sir.
Big Tex is my brother, and he has proven that, and I hope that I've proven that to him. And this coming up year with DBW, regardless of how Merry Mayhem goes, we're sticking by each other, and we're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Let me ask you this. I've interviewed a lot of people in my career. Obviously, we're going into our 5-year anniversary of this next month. I started kind of like how you started, humble beginnings in DBW, and, we were on the yard, we were in, the trampolines, different things. And I started doing this on Skype conversations. Obviously, that's not the point. The point is that I've seen a lot of people. I've interviewed a lot of people in all different walks of life. And, we know that your career took a downturn for whatever reasons, but maybe Merry Mayhem is the start of a comeback. And I have interviewed some people who have made comebacks. Famously in England, Reynaldo, I had him 2 years ago after he emotionally won the LWF World title. I interviewed Mark Gubazab, who basically had won like 10 or 12 games after being a 20-game winner in a 5-year period, and wound up leading the American League in innings in 1995. It's not about that. But the point is that do you feel like that you could have a big comeback, and that maybe this is also emotional for you because there's a lot on the line. I said it was make or break. You've obviously got a chance to win this Anarchy Championship. Your brother Big Tex has got a chance to be the DBW World Heavyweight Champion in really one of the biggest meteoric rises in history. And conversely, you have a chance to write one of the biggest comeback stories potentially in a while in this sport. I mean, do you feel like that this is a comeback, and there be a lot of emotions, especially running high there in the DBW arena this Saturday?
100%. This comeback, the Merry Mayhem means a lot to me. My match, Texas match, all of it. This means the world to me. And when I take that championship, when Tex takes that championship, that's only the start. We're going sky high from there. You want to talk about Mr. Judgment being on the outside of the top 100? By the end of next year, you never know. Tex could be number one on that list.
Well, you know what? I mean, I tell you what, if he wins the title in the same fashion at the same fashion that Goldberg did in the Georgia Dome,
that's a leap.
You know, it's a big deal. If he really does that moment similar to what we saw in the Georgia Dome, yeah, Kings and Queens magazine could all of a sudden have big text up in there.
And then worst case, say we don't get our gold, an absolute off chance, we get back on that horse. We go after gold. We go after people. We go after what we need. We set goals, and we make this comeback true. We don't fail. One loss doesn't mean a comeback is over. It's a bumpy road. Life's a roller coaster. You know that. I know that. Everyone knows that.
But you've had a real roller coaster indeed.
Oh yeah, all the time. That par for the course.
But that's got to make you feel like there's a lot of pressure, because again, you know, to come back in this moment, you've got yourself back in a title match. I know, obviously, a lot of people would have liked to have seen, you know, Navon McDonald continue as Anarchy champion, but you know, life happens and gets in the way, and you know, we wish him well, certainly. But you know, you're in a moment that I don't know what's going to happen in 2024. I don't know what the future is. I mean, Big Tex is a young guy, and okay, he loses Saturday. He's a big man. People say, you know, he hung in there with Judgment. You know, he still got wins over Castelli, and he manhandled Cyrus. Like you said, he'll come back and maybe get another title shot. But I got to think, though, like, you got to be thinking about this a lot.
Pressure is something that you have to not let get to you, and I've seen it get to a lot of people. And you might be right. This might be a lot of pressure. This might be something that if I lose, it could affect me mentally. But that's a part about being a veteran. That's a part about that 10 plus years. That's a part about being involved in the sport for that long. You can't let things get to you like that. And if it does, I have a brother. I have a brother in Big Tex. Something I haven't really had before. The Don's March, they weren't brothers. By the end of that, you could tell. Big Tex, he's a brother. And I'm saying that word a lot. But it's what it is, and it's true. And if I fall down that deep, dark hole, which I'm not planning to, I know he will reach his hand down, pull me out, and we'll climb higher than we were before.
Okay, that's fair. That's certainly fair. Let me get to a ton of comments. I want to say hello to my buddy Nicholas Crenson, who just completed, I believe, his first indoor, I guess you want to say, pro wrestling show in a long time over at the IMF's Winter Clash. How you doing, Nicholas? I want to say hello to you. Also, I want to say hello to somebody that you know very well, and a lot of people know very well here, Mr. Jack Delta, my boy Graves, on the Reverend Tom Bryce show. He said it with caps lock. Thank you for that, Jack Delta. Jack Delta did put that in caps lock. I appreciate that. Happy evening, gentlemen. You want to say anything to Jack Delta at all?
I don't know him as well as I'd like to. I would have liked to at least attend a show with him.
I feel like everybody does know Jack Delta, but it's almost like one of those things, like I know him, but I think I know him from like somewhere else.
I think everyone knows who he is. I've exchanged some messages with him. We've been mutuals for a while. It'd be great to step in the ring or watch him wrestle live one time. That'd be great. But thanks for watching, Jack.
Can I throw something out there if you don't mind? This would maybe
Go for it.
Maybe the management of DBW would like to hear this. You know, Jack Delta, obviously, he is basically the man in terms of everybody loves to see him in different spots. And it was an honor to have Jack on. I want to say 7 or so months ago. Jack can correct me on it. Somebody can fact check me on it. But, if the management of DBW is ever listening, and I know Jack is in the state of Michigan, Maryland and Michigan aren't that far from each other. I would love one day to see Jack Delta in for the DBW universe to see. I mean, what a treat that would be to see Jack Delta square off against Mr. Judgment, the Blaze Ace Christian, Corey Graves. I mean, I love Aaron Jones, Mr. Chase Wakefield. I mean, Jack Delta's been in VTW. I mean, there's a lot of VTW and DBW crossover. I mean, I'm just saying, if there's any way to make that happen out there, I mean, I would love to see Jack Delta, mix it up in the Mid-Atlantic. I mean, maybe bring back that haircut because he doesn't have that hair look anymore. But if it's possible, he could bring back that hairstyle, and maybe we could bring back into DBW. Just saying, it was a good job. I just love to see that. But if that's just my thought. But let's move on before I say anything further idiotic. Enough said. Graves hits the saber with the Altoona spike. So is that? Well, I'll come back to Tex in a second, but let's talk about the Anarchy match for a second. Altoona spike. When do you figure that out? And is it got to be on Jackson Sabre, or what do we do in order to make that moment correct to claim that Anarchy championship?
There's not one person that I need to hit with one specific move. Like I said before, it's picking your moments and taking advantage when you need to. So if I have to hit every single person with a knee to the back of the head, a thumb to the throat, an elbow off the top rope, if I have to jump on their knee and make it so they can't walk, I'll do what I need to. So, but if Jackson Sabre wants the invitation, then walk right up to me.
Okay. Again, very, very fascinating stuff, and that's why I like people to continue to follow Corey Graves out there. So if you're on different platforms out there, a lot of people have been tuning in and out tonight, and I thank you for that. And let me come back to Big Tex. Yes, but like I said, everyone you downplayed, I'm not to be downplayed. I've only been here for a few months, but now you'll be downplayed because you'll have to look up at someone bigger than yourself. And he also says, look at who I've slaughtered this year. Scorpion the Assassin, you, the Blaze Ace Christian, and Castelli the Mauler. Big Tex will be no different. You're in an Anarchy match, did that already. Try Hub or the Holy Grail Kid, matter of fact, prove me wrong and win. Seems like Father Filth has his own scum of mortals, and I have my own low power level beings. All right, let me ask you something else. You were the World Extreme Champion, and that's where you had some real success in DBW. Have you thought about that run as champion in order to kind of put you in that mindset to be ready for the comeback and capture that DBW Anarchy title?
Yes, I have. And that
Let's talk about it.
That championship reign, it was a long one. I had that belt for a while. And that is something that I'm hoping to do starting this Saturday when I take that Anarchy championship from nobody.
That was a good one.
When I prevent all 4 competitors from taking it, preventing me from getting it. Yeah. In all seriousness, that championship reign taught me a lot. That championship reign taught me a lot about what needs to be done to be successful in wrestling. And that was a time when I was aligned with the Dawn's March. So there might have been some shiest here and there going on. But sometimes you gotta fight with shiest, and you gotta do what you need to do to win. Multi-man, I'm pulling no punches. There's 5 people in this match. This is a bar fight.
It's a bar fight for a card that is as stacked as anybody's yet. DBW started the year with a bang, and they're going out in style. They're going, as I like to say, in a blaze of glory. And big part of that is going to be the match you are going to see in the 5-way fatal 5-way for the Anarchy Championship, the vacant title. And our guest tonight, Corey Graves, it's just Graves, is going to be in the ring against a number of people, including DJW. My guest, by the way, December the 30th, midnight, aka the 31st. Going to have on Azriel in a part of that card as well, Jackson Sabre, a man who recently defeated our guest at the top of the show. the Blaze, Ace, Christian will at the first of 2 sets, and then Antonio, just call him Antonio at this point. So obviously, those are the people that Corey Graves is going to be screwing off to see if he can become a 2-time Anarchy champion. Obviously, you had a lot of success with the World Extreme title, but I always ask this question to people that come on Sportswire, and I'm curious about your thoughts. Is there 1 or 2 moments that stand out most in your career so far?
1 or 2. I don't know about 1 or 2, but I could probably get you a little handful. I had a match against Novin a few years back, and that was at DBW Judgment Day. I think that was 2020, and that was a body bag match, and that was something I don't think I will ever forget. That I went through a lot there, and that was pretty much the beginning of the end of the Dawn's March. There were a lot of things that happened, and kind of led me a lot of directions, that match. If that match had gone different ways, then I might be sitting here with 4 belts across my shoulders. You never know. But things happen as they happen, and we are here now. Some other matches that I've had, oh man, that match with Judgment was by far one of my proudest matches. I feel like all props to him, he brought out a lot in me. He helped me a lot with reaching deep down and pulling out all the stops. He's a scary guy, and I don't want to.
I've had him on twice, so I've had him on twice. I'm aware.
I don't want to take that Jesus Christ or that Judgment Slam ever again.
Well, Big Tex is going to find out. We're going to see if Big Tex winds up going out there and doing that there. And obviously, you were the World Extreme Champion, and it's been referenced when you were the champion to what the championship is like now. And what is your impressions on how the title has become? Obviously, Roland Havoc held it for a very, very long time, but we've seen the title change hands most recently. And I mean, with Jackson Snow, and then just talk to me about what you've seen the World Extreme title become since you held the title.
Man, Roland Havoc, what a guy.
Right? Oh, I know. I had him.
Yeah.
He's really, if it wasn't for Roland Havoc, I would not have covered DBW. I actually, to break the fourth wall, it was Roland Havoc 6 months ago that suggested that people in DBW speak to me. So I, break the fourth wall. I am very grateful for Roland Havoc.
Well, props to him, man. Yeah. He has done a lot with that World Extreme Championship, and it was sad to see it come to an end. I was rooting for him. Even after we had our match, that was he earned a lot of respect for me, and there's no hard feelings there. It was a competition, and he came out the better man. He is a fighter, and he's a tough guy. He's a big guy, and whoever crosses his path, whoever's next, I'm sorry. And now that we have Jackson Snow as the World Extreme Champion, he's cold, man. What he did to Depew, that.
Yeah, they had some, and that a lot of people were like, "Wow, he did that. He double crossed him like that."
He's cold, and he now has one of the most prestigious championships, one of the longest running championships in DBW. I don't know how they're officially ranked, but obviously the world belt's up there. I don't know what's what, but the World Extreme Championship, there's been a lot of hard-hitting fights for that belt. And now that Jackson Snow's the champion, look out. I've got my eye on you, man.
I have a follow-up to what you said about the Dawn's March from Big Tex, and he says, we've talked about what happened with the Dawn's March. You said you didn't want to go down that road again, hence why you align with me. You want to talk about that further?
So the Dawn's March was kind of a false brotherhood, if I could put it that way. We formed with similar goals, called ourselves brothers. We took out Novin, or so we thought. And he came back like 3 times and extinguished each and every single one of us. So we learned our lesson, acting the way that we did, or at least I did, in trusting who you pair yourself with. I know he's now Chase Wakefield, but the former Adam Anderson was not someone to align yourself with. And Brandon Castelli is certifiably nuts.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Castelli's an interesting guy. Let me just
Yeah.
say that. I like
He's a
Brandon.
great friend of mine, but he's nuts.
He's interesting. I mean, he's obviously, I don't want to say anything incriminating. Had an interesting journey, and let me just put it that way. He's, I'm trying to figure out how many sides of Brandon Castelli really are. So right now, what I'm trying to figure out. Well, we'll certainly find out. Obviously, we'll see what the future is of Brandon Castelli. But, speaking of Chase Wakefield, as you brought him up, and I've been kind of talking about this throughout the last couple of different shows on Sportswire before I ask you something funny in a second to kind of break the ice a little bit from this whole movement away from judgment and big text. But what do you make of this whole thing with Chase Wakefield and Aaron Jones? I love Aaron, and, Aaron didn't seem to love Chase too much in the Rumble there, which you were a part of. I mean, do you think that Aaron sees Chase the way that Chase sees Aaron? I mean, he even dropped the Bitcoin billionaire name.
I don't know. Chase is persistent, so I've seen him not give up with things. I've seen him, after getting his ass kicked time after time after time again, be persistent with what he wants. So if he wants Aaron Jones to be his best friend, he might be convincing, but seeing him whip him around like that in the Rumble, man, I've never seen someone just that. But I don't know. I don't know if Aaron Jones is too fond of him now. He might take some convincing.
I don't know. Aaron Jones seems like right now he's in it for himself. And obviously Scorpion the Assassin also came on here earlier today and said that he's not done with Aaron Jones. So Aaron Jones might have some other things that he may want to worry about in the future. So something tells me here, Aaron and Chase, I'm not quite sure. Big Tex also wants to say, I know that you said we are brothers, but we have two others that have our backs also. It's funny you said that because I didn't know how to phrase this. And toward the end of our show here, obviously last week, Chaos Conspiracy, Robert Pearson, before he had the Chia Pet haircut, and Jacob Cassidy had asked if you were going to join, and then also Big Tex. Big Tex confirmed he had joined to be the third member of Chaos Conspiracy. Now, they had put it out there if you were going to join. And I was curious for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, maybe especially for Mr. Pearson, Mr. Cassidy, and Mr. Tex, are you becoming the fourth member of Chaos Conspiracy, sir?
Am I becoming?
Yeah.
Those gentlemen, Chaos Conspiracy, Jacob Cassidy, Robert Pearson, those are my boys. Those guys, they've got a bright future ahead of them. So let me answer your question. The answer is yes.
Wow. So you are officially the fourth member of Chaos Conspiracy?
I have their backs, just like they have Texas, just like he has mine.
Wow. You know what? That wasn't hard. That was easy, simple, straight to the point. I was expecting something completely different. So it looks like Chaos Conspiracy is going up in numbers. And it looks like to me, Chaos Conspiracy, they've got the numbers game, and just maybe their fortunes are going to certainly be reversed, because we know you could be bringing home that Anarchy title. Big Tex could be bringing home that world title, and Chaos Conspiracy, all of a sudden, you guys could be the premier group in not only DBW, but in this sport.
That's the plan. I have to talk to those boys a little more. I really want to pick their brains and just... I haven't talked to them as much as I've talked to Tex. I have had a little bit of a longer relationship with Tex, but those guys, sure, they know a lot. They remind me of like an old school tag team. They are good, and it is fun to watch them. Both very individually different in the ring, but both have their skill set and both can do what they need to.
Do you think they're going about it the right way, though, and kind of showing respect to their opponents, and their opponents have come on here on this show and don't seem to be, really reciprocating, if that makes sense?
It's kind of part of what I'm going to talk to them about. We'll just keep it at that.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to ask or have you answer anything further on that. I'm going to certainly let all that stuff sort itself out. Obviously, I'm sure we'll have a lot of fallout when it comes to DBW Merry Mayhem. Again, that'll be this Saturday, and that'll be on the DBW YouTube page, which you can check out here. Again, on YouTube, a dominating breakout wrestling. We'll have more DBW coverage coming up here real soon again. So stay tuned for more details on that. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. We have about another 15 to 21 minutes here with, of course, the one and only Mr. Corey Graves in the eve of his match for the Fatal 5-Way Anarchy Championship that was formerly held by Navon McDonald. And he's going to talk about here what Mr. Graves will do to become a two-time Anarchy champion. You know, and I was wondering, I had a fun question. I have a couple fun questions here. The first one is, when are we going to see Graves versus Graves again?
You know, that was one of my favorite matches of my career. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. Because
that was one of my favorite matches, and almost every time I see Colin, I'm like, man, that was one of my favorite matches. We always say that to each other, and oh boy, I would love to run that back at some point. He's on a little different bit of a division, bit of a different situation than I'm in, but
sure.
paths always cross in weird ways, so you never know.
Anything's possible. Anything is possible. And obviously, he's got his own issues. And we spoke a lot about that with the Blaze Ace Christian. And Mr. Judgment, though, wants to remind you what happened to Chaos Conspiracy on Thunder Punch. Yeah, Chaos Conspiracy is definitely, they've been struggling, destroyed by Mr. Judgment and the It Factor, Cyrus.
I don't think it is, I don't think it's shameful to say that you lost to the DBW World Heavyweight Champion and the DBW Global Champion. I do think it is something to be proud of to say you put up as good of a fight as you did against those two champions with as little of experience as you do in DBW. You have to look at the positives of things like that. I'll turn that to this. You want to compare that to my record in DBW this year, right? How many losses do I have? We're at 6, right? I believe.
Yeah.
So let's name those losses. The DBW World Heavyweight Champion, Mr. Judgment, which I came this close to beating. Twice, he beat me.
Yep.
I will give him that. He has defeated me twice.
Mm-hmm.
Roland Havoc, who was in the middle of a historic World Extreme Championship.
Yep, in a champion versus champion match. Yep, former champion versus current champion. Yep.
Ecstatic, someone who has more experience than probably almost anyone in DBW.
Ecstatic, who is wrestling in Redemption Championship Wrestling, even correct? Who's basically in a pro show. Yep, no question about that. Do not take that away from you. No, very good.
So a lot of my losses have been to some pretty high up there people. You want to compare that to people who have lost to nameless people who've lost to new guys, people who have not done
I
much.
bring that up on the show all the time. There are guys that have come on my platform and talk about how they're the greatest, they're the greatest world champion, and they came on here, and this is not judgment, but other wrestlers that came on here as champions, and, you know, they faced, like, Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. I mean...
Yeah. So, I beat Taft. I won't say that was a gimme. I'm not gonna disrespect him like that because he put up a very good fight. But of course I beat Taft. I've been in this for 10 years. You think I'm gonna lose to Taft in a fight like an I Quit match when I have a guy like Big Tex on my side?
Fair.
So next year, I have experience fighting guys at that level. I have experience fighting guys like Mr. Judgment. I've experienced fighting guys like Roland Havoc. I have experienced fighting guys like Ecstatic. Oh, the other loss? The guy that's fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship at Merry Mayhem, Big Tex.
Yep. No, listen, the resume speaks for itself.
You got to compare that to college football. It's who you beat.
Well, that's why Alabama's in the BCS and Florida State is not. I mean, that's just a simple point. Mr. Judgment wants to say, though, I have to give it to you. You're a fighter, but I sense something in you.
Thank you. You're a fighter, too. And all respect given where all respect is due. You know how I feel about you, Mr. Judgment, when it comes down to it at the end of the day.
You said how you feel about him at the end of the day.
We're in a sport where you have to fight. You have to be mean. You have to be aggressive. You have to be someone who is ruthless, and he is that. And that earns my respect because he has been doing that for this long.
He's been in this game a long time.
And the fact that he's still doing this after this long at this high of a level is impressive. Regardless of what I said about him earlier. Big Tex might be the guy to take him out, but Judgment's still done what he's done.
And he says he's your Lord and Savior. And Big Tex says, don't sway him to your dark side.
Dark side.
No. You'll have to watch this Saturday, Merry Mayhem. And we're going to see again Corey Graves, a part of that fatal 5-way match for the Anarchy Championship. Big Tex is in the main event. He's going to be squaring off against Mr. Judgment. Also, the Blaze Ace Christian, who was here earlier today, is going to be squaring off for the Tag Team Championship match and a singles match against Caden Phoenix. So that's a really, really intriguing match. A lot of other great matches. You can go to DBW's pages for all information on here. So, obviously, as we're coming toward the end of the show, I was curious because you've been in this game for 10 years. I know DBW is a very unique roster. DBW is obviously really grown since you've been here, but do you consider yourself a locker room leader now in DBW?
It's hard to call yourself that without giving yourself some sort of like ego boost. I don't want to call myself a locker room leader. I will just say that I have a lot of guidance to give for anyone that is seeking it. You might not get as much as Big Tex, but I will tell you what needs to be told.
How do you feel DBW has changed since you've been in the company?
Exponentially. When I joined DBW, we started in a metal garage with not much room. Not much room other than in the ring. That place was loud, though. It echoed. And we went from there all the way up to New York, which was like a 6.5-hour drive from where I am. Those were some treks. Now here we are in Maryland, but we have a building that we have every single time. We have a production that is getting better each and every single time. We now are consistently doing things like Thunder Punch, which adds to the quality of DBW so much. I've said that behind the scenes. I think I said that the other day.
Yep.
We are just growing and growing and growing. And next year, I don't know what to say to everyone, but next year we're going to get even better. It's going to be bigger, better than ever before.
I agree with that 1,000%, and I look at again where DBW was, where DBW is, and where DBW will be. And that's why this company has the absolute dedicated following that it has here. Graves, just remember what we talked about. If you turn on me, I bring vengeance back upon you if you do.
See, I keep seeing this, and I think this initially started during one of your other shows.
Where we spoke, a lot of people, myself included, asked the question that are you using Big Tex to maybe advance your career again? That's where this kind of came up, more or less.
Hold on, sorry.
But don't worry, we're getting to the end of the show, so don't worry here. So obviously, I think what a lot of people wanted to know is, as we're coming toward the end, are you using Big Tex to help bring you back up the ladder? Is this sincere? That's what people had asked in prior shows.
Of course it's sincere. Why would I use Big Tex for something like that? One, I've fought him. I've seen what he can do. Why would I want that again tenfold? I've helped Tex possibly more than he's even helped me. Look at where he is. Why would I do that for him when I could do that for someone like myself?
Well, that's not my opinion. That's what other people think.
No, I'm not asking you. These are the hypotheticals. These are the yeah.
Well, I guess people may look at it like, well, maybe you are jealous of his success. Maybe he's already in a short amount of time could go to places that you haven't yet gone to. That's what makes maybe some people think those things.
I've never been jealous of Big Tex a day in my life, and I don't plan on being. I'm proud of where he is. I'm proud of where he is, how fast he has gotten there. And the fact that people would think I would do something so heinous, and the fact that people would even allude to that, shows what their character is like. It shows that they, deep down, are someone who would turn on their brother. It shows that they are someone like Jackson Snow, or they're someone who would do something very similar. That's not me, and that's not Tex. And I'm talking to Big Tex right now. I want you to look at me. You are my brother, and I can promise you with everything that I have, that is not going to happen.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, I think that could this tension be diffused and head of Merry Mayhem, it's going to be a long next 6 days from now. Jackson Sabre wants to claim, thus Chaos Conspiracy becomes a pathetic 34-some. Well, that's up to you to decide, and the people. Obviously, that's up to the guys, Jacob Cassidy, Robert Pearson, the new hair look, or hairless Robert Pearson, or rather shorter Robert Pearson hair look, and Big Tex, and obviously our guest tonight, Corey Graves. That's up for those guys to decide. Also hear from Mr. Jackson Sabre. We have See You at Merry Mayhem, Graves. Happy holidays. Judgment, you being a prophet, need to pray that when we go to war. Interesting here. Get in the ring. I will destroy purgatory once and for all. Big Tex, you've already lost. Is there division already prior to this match? Seems as if you've answered a lot of that. I realize I could ask you a lot of questions, but I also realize that there's going to be questions that are going to continue to further need to be asked after Merry Mayhem. So in the interest of time, I would like to ask you, what are your final words to all of your opponents coming up at Merry Mayhem for that DBW Anarchy Championship, which you look to claim for a second time?
So when you step in the ring with me at Merry Mayhem, I want you to be aware that you're stepping in the ring with someone who has been doing this for longer than all of you, with someone who is aware of what is going on around him, with someone with the wherewithal, the grit, and the toughness to withstand anything that you can do to me. I've had this championship before, and I know what it takes. I don't think a single one of you have ever held gold in this company. And if it is down to me, I'll make sure you never do.
I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I continue to promote it. Merry Mayhem. I am fired up. If you need a primer on it, go and watch Thursday Night Thunder Punch. It's really one of the most action-packed Thunder Punches yet. DBW continue to time and time again continues to outdo itself in all the great content, all the great things it puts out there. You can follow them on a number of different platforms. If you hear Sportswire Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on our internet radio station. So if you have a podcast out there, if you'd like to be able to play your own music, we have those opportunities well. So it's free of charge. I take care of all the costs when it's maintenance, engineering, all that stuff. You can check us out here at sportswireradio.org. Also, our brand new blog you can check out here at Tumblr at Sportswire Radio. And if you want to watch past, present, and future DBW shows, the link here below. Let me ask you this last question before I get to closing thoughts. Is there anything else you want to say to anybody in the DBW universe or anybody else out there that has supported you in DBW before we sign off?
Thank you for the support. For the doubters of me and Big Tex, hit the bricks. And for everyone in the roster next year, you don't know what's coming. We'll end it on that.
You know what? Maybe we are ending things in a blaze of glory because Chaos Conspiracy could be moving up the ranks. Maybe we see Anarchy coming into the group with that Anarchy Championship. Maybe that World Heavyweight Championship, and maybe the most meteoric rise in wrestling history since Goldberg. Everyone talks about the Georgia Dome. Maybe in that DBW arena, Big Tex makes his own history. Chaos Conspiracy moves back up the ladder and maybe gets their crack at some gold in the near and distant future. The Blaze Ace Christian could very well be a tag team champion once again. So many questions that need to be answered. We're going to find out some of those answers at the final show of the DBW year. and it's going to be called Merry Mayhem. One more time, you're going to want to find out all platforms on DBW. We're going to be talking a lot about that in 2023 and 2024. DJW, your opponent's going to be here December the 30th, midnight, aka December 31st. I'm going to be talking a lot about him. Certainly, we're going to have more people on the show in 2024. Brandon Caselli's coming back. The Blaze Ace Christian. I'm sure you're coming back. In Big Tex, you win that championship, you'll come back to Sportswire, maybe even before 2023. But stay tuned for that and some. Obviously, I know you're a busy man. You're getting ready for the holidays. You're getting ready for a lot on your plate. So I want to give you the floor. I definitely hope to see you a lot more here on Sportswire Radio. It has been an absolute honor. We have only scratched the surface. But until then, I want to give you the floor, give you some closing thoughts, Corey Graves. And anything else you want to plug, share, or say, be my guest. The floor is yours.
You got one heck of a show here, man. You've got probably the best interview for this like wrestling whole community stuff. I'm gonna be honest.
I appreciate that. I
love being on here.
And I want you back on. I really want everybody back on. You know, I really.
Yeah, it'll be great, and we'll find the perfect time to do it. You never know. We might have double gold around me and Texas waist.
Oh, I tell you what, I like when double gold is on Sportswire. You know, we had RPD, who was the first member inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. He came on the show, and he had 3 championships in a trophy. So it was like, wow, okay. And he's like, take the camera, and he was moving the camera, and he's like moving closely. So you know, I would like more gold on Sportswire. You know, Mr. Judgment's come on here with gold, which is great, but to have multiple gold on Sportswire, who knows? Maybe you and Big Tex even on at the same time with championships. I mean, how about that idea? Chaos Conspiracy, all 4 of you guys, if it's what you say it's going to be. I mean, maybe all 4 of you guys on a spot next month. I'm just saying. There's endless opportunities on Sportswire, and I would love to see it. And I think the fans of Sportswire and DBW and elsewhere want to see that, and they want to see a chance to plug you out there on Instagram. It's Just Graves. YouTube at Just Gravy Baby. Twitter, Just Gravy Baby. Also, Graves Wrestling as well out there on YouTube. And again, DBW. You can check out DBW again. DBW Wrestling on Twitter. Dominant Breakout Wrestling on YouTube, where you can watch Merry Mayhem. Dominating Backyard Wrestling on Facebook. You can check us out anytime at tumblr.com/Sportswire Radio. YouTube, past, present, and future. Sportswire Radio shows at 6579 streams, and also sportswireradio.org. I want to wish you and your family a very happy holiday. I can't wait to watch next Saturday's show. In fact, I'm going to be watching next Saturday's show, and then right afterwards, I have one renowned deathmatch wrestler, Mac 10. So my plans pretty much are DBW, watching Merry Mayhem, speaking with Mac 10 afterwards. So we got a very, very busy weekend ahead on Sportswire. You're going to be a big part of it. I really, really am looking forward to your match. It has been an absolute honor here on Sportswire Radio to have you, and I have no doubt that we're going to only do many, many more of these ahead. And congratulations, happy holidays to you and your family, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here real soon on Sportswire Radio, and good luck out there, and alongside your best friend and brother, Big Tex, as well. Good luck to him in the main event, the biggest match of his career, if he will make that ability to have the meteoric rise and the dream come true to take that DBW title away from Mr. Judgment this Saturday. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Corey Graves. Corey Graves is our guest here tonight. He looks to reclaim that Anarchy Championship for a second time. He was the former DBW World Extreme Champion. He's also competed in places like NLUW. He's also been in EBW. He's been a number of different great platforms, but you see him, and most importantly, as a mainstay in the DBW roster. He is going to be a part of the Merry Mayhem show coming up here this Saturday. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report. I want to thank DBW for giving me this opportunity to preview Saturday's show ahead. If you're on sportswireradio.org, you're going back to your regularly scheduled programming, probably Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer for the next half an hour, maybe some other jingles in between is that as well. But also, I'll be back here tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Brand new WC All-Out Champion Tuesday, Luke Leyland, acclaimed wrestler turned filmmaker turned boxer, Bentley to be inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame coming up here this Wednesday, and then Joshua Fletcher of XCW, the owner and founder of XCW, to be inducted as well, 7 o'clock. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio.